Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about the first topic for today, right? So it's product selection and validation, and that's something that everyone really struggles with, especially somebody who's starting off. And today we're going to be talking mostly about Amazon.com, but of course some of the principles also apply to other marketplaces, especially Amazon.sg, which has just recently started up here in Singapore, and many sellers will be interested in selling on Amazon.sg as well. But by and large, as of now, most sellers here, they sell on Amazon.com. So what is some advice that you have for someone who's just starting out on how to look for product ideas, like what to sell online?
So I want to kind of tailor this to the room based on the hands that went up earlier. And so most people here aren't selling on Amazon yet, and you're going through this struggle of what product should I pick. I would say the most important thing is just to get started. It doesn't matter what the product is. Just stop procrastinating. Go find something, anything. It doesn't matter. I give this. This is a thing I came up with a couple of years ago when I was talking at another event, and this is like a societal pressure problem, right? You're afraid to go tell your friends, I bought this item and I lost some money. You got no problem telling them that you flew that way across the world to go to a trade show, or that you bought this course, or that you went to an event. This education of just getting a product and getting up there will be the cheapest education you'll get. And it'll get you started. That's the most important thing. There are so many questions you probably have right now if you haven't started selling on Amazon yet, like how do I get my account created? How do I label products? So this is like the most confusing thing ever. I got FN SKUs and box labels and crate labels, and this, how do I create my listing, and how do I get photography up there, and what's back-end keywords, and how do I do PPC? And so the longer you wait to get going, the longer it will be before you have these questions answered. So I would say it doesn't matter if it's profitable or not, just get started, right? And so this gets this parallel universe going of I'm learning how to sell on Amazon, along with I can now continue to do my product research, and when the right thing comes along, you'll be so much further ahead than if you had waited until the perfect moment to come along. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, don't follow what everyone else is doing necessarily. There's lots of people out there talking about how to sell on Amazon and how to do product selection. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, it's easy to get lost in that crowd. And I love a saying by this guy named Wayne Gretzky. He's a hockey player. There's a sport that these guys play in North America called hockey. And Wayne Gretzky was like the greatest hockey player of all time. And he says, don't skate to where the puck is, skate to where the puck is going. Right? And so everyone in this room has access to Jungle Scout and Helium 10 and other tools like this. And it's easy to put in some parameters and have it spit out and give you opportunities. But again, everyone's doing that same thing. So the things that we look for, and I also like to say begin with the end in mind, right? And so we're looking to build $1 million brands and thinking through this whole process. So what is it that you can sell, that you can develop, the type of products you can make that are going to create a good brand and a survivable business long term? This is the way that I'm thinking about things. So the coloring niche is a great example of this. We identified a niche that was on an uptrend. To see that is one of the things. Something people are passionate about. I love hobby-type products. I don't know anything about coloring, but the people that are in the coloring are really passionate about coloring. This is their hobby. And if you have products that people are passionate about, they're going to be your own user-generated content, right? They will post about it on social media, they'll tell their friends about it. Ice wraps, that never happens, right? Like in our other products, or the boring products category. And while we were able to do that and create a multi-million-dollar business out of that, that was in 2015. The world is very different now in 2020 on Amazon. There's hundreds of thousands of more sellers, and factories are going directly in there. So if you got products that are the same as everybody else, as I was talking about, it's very difficult to crack into that in 2020. So with the coloring niche, we look for something that you could differentiate. And I barely made it out of high school, so you don't have to be an inventor or a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out. It was a matter of looking through what was already there to make a better product. So we started looking at the coloring books that were on the market and reading the reviews that were already there. And all the answers were right there for us. like when I color this page, it bleeds through, and I ruins the back of the drawing. There's like they would print on both sides. I'm a left-handed colorist, and when I'm trying to like keep the book open, it's constantly like closing on itself. It's very difficult. I can't rip out the artwork and frame it. The paper sucks. It doesn't lie flat, so I can't color easily, like while I'm on a bus or whatever it might be, or a doctor's reading room. And so we solved all of these problems by making a coloring book that had a spiral binding that used high-quality paper. We printed on one side instead of both sides. We made the pages perforated. And next thing you know, we had something that was a little bit different. We didn't invent the coloring book. We just kind of reinvented the coloring book. And so, if you're at a trade show or, Canton Fair or Sources, whatever it might be, and you're looking at products, and you're taking the exact same product off the shelf that everyone else has access to, it's going to be more and more difficult to be successful at that moving forward. So we like to look at things that we can talk to the factory about differentiating in some way. So I'll use our gel pens as for instance. We weren't the first people to sell gel pens on Amazon, but we became the #1 selling gel pens on Amazon. This was a really hyper-competitive category. And so we went to the Canton Fair and walked the floor and found the best gel pen in terms of the best gel pen for coloring, because most gel pens are made for writing or for doodling or whatever. And so we tested literally hundreds of different gel pens. It was kind of embarrassing for walking to Canton Fair with my wife and with a piece of paper just scribbling, going through each booth and finding one that flowed the best. But we made some additional improvements from there. Again, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. We decided, okay, what does our community want in terms of improvements with this product? So we printed a name on every single product, or on every single pen, I should say, and a color chart. And so up to this point, like every single gel pen that had been sold on Amazon had no color name on it. There'd be 7 different shades of red in there, and so someone that's coloring wants to pick up the exact same shade of red when they pick up their drawing the next day. And so because we called it like fire brick red or whatever, they'd be able to go find that. We also packaged it with a really nice case that we had custom made with a sewing factory. And we also included a set of refills in the box that no one else was doing. So we made them refillable, kind of like a Bic you give away the razor, sell the blades kind of mentality. And so you would sell the refills for $10, it cost us $1. That's where all of our margins were. So once we got someone hooked on our product and they were using it, the refills is where we made all of our money. And we also included it in a really nice box. So we made the packaging experience something that even adults would look forward to and feel like a kid on Christmas Day when they got that. To the point where if the box showed up damaged, it would demand for us to replace their box. So we were doing something right when people want just your packaging. And so again, micro improvements. The last thing I'll say about this that's important is they have to be visible and they have to be explainable without words. People don't read. We're probably all guilty of this. But you can put all the copy you want on your listing and make it say whatever you want. But if people can't see it visually from the photography, it doesn't matter. So you have to make improvements to products that are visually like aha, right? And so with the gel pens, if you go look up color gel pens, anybody can look at these. There's competitors there now, but the stuff was all visual. Like people could just see that it came with a really nice case, and that it came with refills, and that the color names were on the package. You didn't have to. The person could have not spoken a word of English and still been able to understand the differentiations. So again, to kind of sum things up, you look for things you can make micro improvements to, things that you can visually explain to people, and look for stuff is consumable, people have a passion about, something that gives you an edge that other people aren't willing to necessarily put the extra little bit of effort into. But playing in the sandbox of I'm just going to source the same thing everyone else is, worked great in 2015. Trust me, built a wonderful brand off of that. But I don't think that we can go back and do the same thing today. And so you have to be looking at where's the puck going. And you're probably, if you're just getting started, you're looking at 2021 before you really are up and running, right? Because it takes time to find the products and source them, get them up on the shelf, start getting your sales. So you need to be thinking about where things are going to be even further in the future than we are. And I think that's the approach that we do.
That's really good advice. So what I really like about your Color It brand is that you don't have just one product, but you have a series of products that complement each other. So I think that's super important,
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely really important, and that's the whole beginning with the end in mind thing, right? So we didn't want to put all this effort into getting a trademark and getting our logo design and buying an expensive domain name, colorit.com, and all the things that kind of go into this just to sell one product, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we were in a niche that had some depth. Very, very important. And even then, we kind of hit the end of the rainbow with this. I mean, we made gel pens, we made markers, we made colored pencils, we made 25 different coloring book titles before we eventually sold the company in April of last year. And so this was something that was not accidental. It wasn't like, oh, thank God we got a niche that has more than one product to offer. This was something that we thought about ahead of time. And there's definitely one-product businesses out there that are successful. That's not something that I want to get into. Because one-product businesses have one fail point. Right? You get someone knocking you off, or you get a listing suspended, or another mousetrap comes out, a competitor comes out with something that's similar but a little bit better. Things change quickly, and so we always like to try to mitigate our risk and spread things around. And so that was something that was very purposeful in our business.
Do you have any other examples of such niches that people can consider? I mean, what are some other examples? You're doing coloring books for adults. What are some other?
Yeah, I think any hobby, really. And so sewing is one that we look at a lot. And ultimately we're going to pass on it. I have this other book at my rear end right now that I want to get into something that I have a personal interest in. I think that when you think even longer down the road, it gets harder when you're getting burned out in your business, like I had at a certain point last year, and there's just a lot of stress, and you're moving quickly, and it's something that you don't personally have an interest in, it makes it more difficult. And so if you can find a hobby that you have personal interest and passion in, this can make things a lot easier. But unfortunately, when I went through this exercise myself, I'm interested in tennis, for instance. Big tennis fan, going to the Australian Open next week. I'm not going to make rackets, I'm not going to make tennis shoes, I'm not going to sell tennis balls. The industry's out to me, right? It's a tough one to get into. You need to be Bob a lot, or Nike, or Head, or somebody to get in there. I like scuba diving. Another really tough niche to get into. A lot of liability associated with it. These are very seasoned brands that people are looking for the name brand. And I also like traveling, but I also determined that traveling wasn't a great niche because travel, like the average traveler market type person is frugal. There's no repeat purchase. You sell them something once. Like I'll spend a lot of money on my travel gear, but it's because I want to buy the best and only buy it once. Like I don't plan on buying another backpack for like another decade. And so it's hard to get people to really buy more of your products. And one of the things that we discovered, which I'm sure you guys already know as well, was a little bit slow, but it's expensive getting customers. It's hard getting customers. So we wanted to be able to get more out of them. But once we went through that effort, we want to sell them more. And so like other hobbies, that I've been into, I was like in the radio control cars as a kid. I think that would be a really good one. But there's tons of different hobbies out there. So look at yourself first and think about what kind of hobbies you have. And the great thing about that is it also lends well to another thing that we kind of naturally fell into here, which is content. Being able to produce really great content allows you to eventually get organic search rankings and get free traffic and build a list and do all the other things that we talk a lot about on our podcast. That eventually gives you a leg up and allows you to succeed in a very competitive niche. If we were just selling gel pens from day one, we never would have cracked that space on Amazon. But we have built a community of 100,000 or 200,000, whatever it was, email subscribers, and 40, 50,000 ManyChat, Facebook Messenger subscribers, and people on Push Crew and Pixel audience. So when we launched these products, we had a very white hat way to launch them. I think that's actually one of the things we were talking about. So we can talk a little bit about that when that time comes. But so I think hobbies, things that people are passionate about. One last thing I'll mention here on this topic: look for things that there's a direct Facebook audience for as well. So like you look at all these hobbies have a Facebook audience, and so instead of trying to run ads to people, it's very difficult to convert. You run ads to people who like coloring, who already, there was 850,000 people in the United States that had raised their hand basically and said, I like coloring. I mean, it's not really surprising that our Facebook ads did incredibly well. And so it's also not surprising that we've gotten into other niches like 80 or tactical stuff where, again, the passion can sell them more of the same thing. And there's niches like fishing, hunting, camping, survivalism, prepping, right-wing type, political type topics. These are all things that work really well with Facebook ads and help you build a list and help you launch products.
Do you use tools at all, like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout?
Mm-hmm.
What do you use them for?
Yeah, I mean, just because I say don't use Helium 10 or Jungle Scout to do product research, I think you also be very remiss if you didn't use these tools, right? I mean, if you have all this amazing data available to you, why not take advantage of it? So for us, it's a little bit different. We're using it not at the start of the process, but somewhere in the middle or towards the end for some sort of validation. And so what I want to see when I'm looking at, I'm doing my niche research ahead of time based on all the stuff I just talked about. At some point, it's okay, well, are there sales here to support building a multi-million-dollar business off of? And so the thing that Jungle Scout in particular does a really great job of, and you can see all the sales of all the other products that are happening in that niche or with that particular product. And so one of the things that we also are looking for there is not only looking for sales, but also the depth of sales. It's really difficult to get into a hyper-competitive niche where like the top 2 or 3 sellers like have 95% of the sales. I like to look at some diversity. Like if I'm the 20th product in there, I can still make a living at it. I can still get some sales. I don't have to play a bunch of dirty tricks to necessarily get to the top 3 to get those sales. So we look for depth of market and the volume to just start making some determination on how big is this niche, and then also it can help you find cross products, other things you can sell to build out a brand.
Okay. So do we have any questions on this topic? Product.
Especially Korea, go to China and build, but before you go to factory, they need a minimum requirement, a lot of high requirement in order to start that. That's the law.
Yeah. So I think the question is, if you're trying to differentiate the minimum order quantity, MOQ goes up, right? And how do you deal with that challenge? I mean, without pulling any punches or sugarcoating it, we were very fortunate that this was not our first business, and we had some money from other businesses to be able to make this leap. And for me, the way that I look at this is that differentiating factor and that barrier to entry is the opportunity. It helps make it more difficult for everyone else in this room and everyone else at all the other meetups all over the world. My friend Chris, a mutual friend, runs this meetup in Shenzhen. They get 1,500 people there for this type of event. And so, I want to use those types of things as our advantage. And so, I don't have a great answer for you if because that's just a business model that I've chosen. But again, I don't want to diminish the fact that maybe you don't have $50,000 to go in an MOQ where we were willing to take that risk. And the reason it wasn't like it was my very first products that allowed me to take that chance. It was that we already had some momentum on Amazon and I was comfortable before we did those things. But when we ordered gel pens for the first time, we ordered a container of gel pens. Like literally, it was an entire container, one product, one SKU, an entire container. And it showed up a mold in it. Because we didn't know better to put this second pack in there. And so, it was one of the things I talked about with sources a couple of years ago, and they asked me to do a thing on sourcing fails. I'm like, oh great, I could go here for an hour and talk about what an idiot I am. But that, there's obviously things that can go wrong, obviously, as well. But even through all that, even through the fact that it was this massive investment that caused a lot of stress, and when they showed up, they had gotten mold in them, and we had to clean them by hand, one by one, 6,500 units. When we finally got them in the Amazon, they were a huge success because we made those improvements, and all of our thesis that we had made to that point came true. And it took over 2 years before anybody else was able to get there. I mean, now there's other competitors that have copied the exact same thing that we're doing, unfortunately. But we had a 2-year runway on that product, and we sold millions of dollars of just that one SKU. So, but yeah, it will definitely require a higher MOQ. That's for sure. And we had to even twist their arm to get them to do 6,500 units. That was pushing it. To get the MOQ even that low, which was still high. This was $10 a unit, so $65,000 order.
Do we have any more questions?
What kind of strategy to ranking to first page?
Yeah, that's the next topic. Let's first talk about products. Yeah, let us get to the topics. Any product selection?
What are the research methods that you use before really deciding you should custom make this product?
Yeah, so the question is, what are the research methods that we use before deciding to pick a product? I think if there's anything else that I missed there, and I kind of covered the big stuff, right, which is, I didn't mention it specifically, but the Google Trends, so I don't know if you guys all use Google Trends, but if you type in, like coloring, adult coloring books, and wanted to see a growth, say going up into the right, you want to things that's really tough to run a business that's running into a headwind. You're trying to grow into a shrinking market. And this is something I learned in online poker affiliate marketing days, because I was an affiliate marketer in online poker, which was a shrinking market, very, very difficult. So I was, wanted to be looking for something that you'd start riding a wave of growth and hope that that's going to continue in that niche. Just talking more specifically about reading the negative reviews of other competitors' products. I can't stress that enough. I mentioned it already, but I just want to reiterate. I don't know that we've ever found a better source of ideas for improving products. Again, they're all right there. Like every single thing that we improved upon, with the exception of including refills and our gel pens, all that stuff was right there in the reviews, the one-star reviews, the real one-star reviews, not the fake one-star reviews, right? But, customers are very vocal and passionate, especially in these hobby niches. And so the majority of the ideas we got were there. Other product research ideas, I feel like I covered a lot of them. Making sure there's a Facebook niche, interest, specifically the technical term would be an interest on Facebook. So making sure whatever you're getting into, from my perspective, I'd like to see a niche right there, an interest of at least 1 million people that I can run ads to, because we also drove a lot of our business through Facebook ads, which grew both our Shopify business and our Amazon business. Making sure there's no patent or intellectual property would be another thing. I didn't cover it all, but you don't want to get into something that you start selling it and then you get a legal letter. Those are never fun. And depending on the business, they can be very aggressive. And luckily we never run into this, but I know lots of people that have. So just make sure you're not infringing on any copyrights or patents or trademarks or things of that nature. But I'll keep thinking about that question, and I'll come up with a couple other ideas as we talk more. But those are the big things.
Yeah.
In terms of margin, do you happen to have any rule of thumb?
Yes. So this question was in terms of margin, or is there any rule of thumb? This is probably the most important thing. I'm glad that this question came up. My partner in Econ Crew, Dave Bryant, has an amazing saying that revenues are vanity and profits are sanity. And you'll probably get a lot of angry people here at me to say this, but it's actually quite easy to sell stuff online. You can sell $1 million, no problem. Might cost me $2 million to do it, but it's actually quite easy to sell stuff, right? I mean, you can let your ad costs get out of control and a bunch of other things. Running a profitable e-commerce business is actually incredibly challenging. There are a lot of moving parts, and so margin is the way to fix all your problems, right? And when I was first getting started in e-commerce with treadmill.com, one of the things I didn't mention that kind of got me away from drop shipping and getting me away from that model is we ran on 10% margin. We buy something for $1,000 and sell it for $1,100. And in my mind, I was like, oh man, I make $100 per transaction. Like, this is going to be amazing. But the reality is that by the time you pay for employee costs and ad costs and credit card fees and returns and all the other BS that happens in e-commerce, we were barely making any money. And so fast forward, eventually as I got into private label, my rule of thumb was a third for a very long time, which was basically a third of it would be profit for me, a third of it is profit for Amazon because their fees and stuff are quite expensive, and a third of it would be cost of goods. And so you buy it for one, sell it for free. But we're basically at a point now, we won't even consider something unless, at a bare minimum, we can buy it for $1 and sell it for $3.50. But we're really playing in this buy it for $1, sell it for $4 range. And so immediately, this qualifies like most things out there, right? It makes it easy to say no to. And you should say no to a lot of things, because the problem is when you're running into these thin margin products, there's always someone else out there who's willing to do it for less. Always. Like, we have a large organization around to support. My manager from the Philippines office is here, and we have 13 people there. We have people in California. We had an office and a warehouse there. We sold Colorate. Just the overhead alone was a lot. And so if I'm competing against someone else who's just out of college in their mom's basement in their underwear, it's very difficult to compete against that guy. And this is the internet, so all of us are competing against those same people. What's even more dangerous is you're competing against someone else that didn't realize this stuff going into it, and they're actually losing money and don't even realize it, or they're losing money because they're just trying to recover some of their investment back. And so, that buy for $1, sell for $4, helps really get you in a spot where a lot of these things become solvable. This puzzle becomes solvable. It also allows you to be in a position where, when tariffs happen, all of a sudden I feel a couple years ago, that we could deal with that, because we weren't in a position to just pass it right off to the customer, as Trump says that China's paying for it. No, they're not. We're paying for it. And so, these are things I think that are quite important, and it'll also help you. And so the question becomes, okay, it's easier for you to say buy it for $1 and sell it for $4. What now you're priced higher than everyone else, and this doesn't work. This will help force you into some of the stuff I was talking about. We were able to do that with Colorate, and can do that with some of our other products because we made improvements of some kind, and we're one of the only ones, or the only one, selling the modified version of this product, right? And so, if you can do that in a way that, again, visually is we're never the cheapest product. Go look at gel pen market when you guys get home. We're selling gel pens for $29.99. I'm not even exaggerating. There were people selling for $8. Same 48 gel pens. And so it was never about selling the cheapest product. It was about building a brand and selling something and making a living. Actually being able to quit your job, pay your employees, have enough to pay your mortgage, and all these other things. And so the margin equation, I apologize about on a huge tangent, but it's a super important component. And so I think the general buy it for $1, sell it for $3.50 or $4 or even higher if you can. There's other things like makeup and food products and other things that traditionally have higher margins. I love those types of businesses. But even still, we were able to carve out an issue to buy for $1 and sell for $3.50 or more.
Okay. So let's say someone has a budget of, $5,000 or something. How does someone like that get started on e-commerce? Is that even feasible?
Yeah, it's definitely tougher. We get asked this question a lot. We have a whole community, and everyone knows me. I'm not those smoke up people's are in. I don't like to just sell courses. It's tough. It's getting tougher. My recommendation for this would be, again, if you can kind of write this whole thought process of the hobby thing and the passion thing, I would take a lot of that money up front and start building an audience and traffic. And once you have that, that can never be taken away. And so let's just imagine for a moment that it's coloring again, and you're just getting started. Well, starting a blog about coloring, and reviewing all the other products that are on the marketplace, and tips and tricks about coloring, and putting a YouTube channel together for that, and getting traffic together, for this niche, and reviewing other Amazon products, and you'll make money through affiliate sales through Amazon. They still pay, it's just a couple points of commission on their sales, but that data is worth a fortune. And so what we've done with tactical.com specifically, we're using this exact model, is that we're building a traffic first methodology. And as we're ranking for something like multi-tool shovel or credit card multi-tool or e-evacuation tool or whatever, these are the things that we sell, and we've ranked other people's products, well, once we're ranking for that search term on Google. Now our product suddenly that we're going to go develop becomes the number one product to recommend. You got to be careful with the FTC and make sure you disclose this stuff, but now we just have outside traffic coming from a web page from a Google search to Amazon that allows us to eventually get those sales. And so if you can get that traffic and kind of go through those steps, it basically guarantees you that your product will be successful because we have this leg up. Otherwise, I mean, if you have $5,000 to get started, if you can do what I'm talking about here, I don't know the niche you would get into, but if it's something you have a personal interest and passion and understanding of, you can usually develop something in that niche and make those changes I'm talking about that you in your heart know that like people are going to want, right? And if you know and you're passionate and you know they're going to want it, then you can take your life savings and put it down and hope that it's going to be successful, and it probably will be, because if you think it's going to work, there's a very good chance that it will. And that would be the approach I would take, one of those two things.